It's Numbers Don't Lie here on CBS Sports Golazo, powered by Sofascore. Chris Whittingham, Nico Cantor, ready to get you up to speed with everything that's happening in the world of football, including Inter Miami winning MLS Cup. Lionel Messi is champion of American soccer, Chris.
Yeah, and what is it, trophy number 47 for him in his career? I actually decided to go to this game. I knew it was going to be on the show, had to bring the in-person insight, but he had a brilliant performance in this final.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, he led it. Almost every category. Assists, key passes, big chances created. Perhaps Vancouver allowed him to have some of those big chances, successful dribbles, and he was the best player on the field according to the Sofascore rating.
Which makes sense also against the eye test as well. Obviously, the first goal, he isn't even involved in terms of a statistical contribution.
Right.
But come the end of this season, he was absolutely dominant for Inter Miami. He didn't actually score in either the semifinal or the final, but still made massive contributions with these assists. 23rd, which is best in MLS, 35 goals over the course of regular season and playoffs. Astronomical figures for a player in this league.
Yeah, so much so, we're considering whether this is the best single season in Major League Soccer history, and it might well be. I mean, successful dribbles, 101 successful dribbles, big chances created. Messi didn't become dull when he arrived at Major League Soccer. He stayed sharp, Chris.
Yeah, and that wasn't necessarily a given because Lionel Messi obviously is, in some people's view, the greatest player of all time.
Yeah.
But other great players have come to Major League Soccer and not taken it very seriously at times and also not delivered that level of performance. One player that did, and I think what was sort of the high watermark for the previous best MLS season ever was Carlos Vela. Playing for LAFC, this LAFC team was absolutely fantastic. They won the Supporter Shield. They did actually end up not winning MLS Cup, but Carlos Vela in that season had 34 goals in the regular season, 36 including playoffs with 11 assists, and I think the figures are relatively comparable in terms of goal scoring, but with that assist figure being much higher for Lionel Messi, incredibly impressive. The Sofascore rating slightly more impressive for Messi as well. I think we can make a reasonable argument that Lionel Messi just turned in the best MLS season of all time.
Yeah.
And that's also while missing some games due to injury. If we imagine a world in which he plays in every single MLS game, these numbers could be even more ridiculous.
Yeah, and we imagine he's going to be back-to-back MVP.
Yes.
For Major League Soccer. Listen, there's a couple of other individual seasons that we can compare Messi's season with, like, for example, Josef Martinez with Atlanta United. It's a fun argument to make, but we still live in this Messi-Ronaldo era, especially post-Europe Messi and Ronaldo. And I want to compare both players since Messi has arrived in Major League Soccer. And although the trophies for Messi are in his favor, Ronaldo is still playing a lot and scoring a lot too. The numbers just show that.
Yeah, I think the goal-scoring figures have been incredible. And actually, that is the one thing that doesn't get included a little bit from before Lionel Messi joined Inter Miami is when he joined Al Nassr. From the moment he joined, he has scored tons of goals, slightly better in terms of minutes per goal for Lionel Messi. The one thing, though, is the trophies. I think the impact on winning, obviously the Saudi Pro League is really built up around Cristiano Ronaldo with all the public investment funds, but they have not been able, his team has not been able to get over the line. This season, though, they've gotten off to a very good start. Ronaldo is having an impact in those games as well. 9 wins from 9. Al Nassr look on their way so far to going and winning a league title, and I think that would be the number one thing that he could do to sort of bolster that argument.
Messi's 41 assists are absolutely incredible. 18 assists for Ronaldo, who plays a less generous position. It's more about his goal scoring threat in front of goal is pretty incredible anyway. I mean, the fact that these guys are this age and still contributing so much offensively, it just begs the question what their impact is going to be at the World Cup and who potentially can have a better impact come summer 2026.
Which is crazy because even talking about it in sort of this post-major European football stage, you don't expect players at the age of 38, 39, 40, and in Ronaldo's case, he will be 41 when the World Cup kicks off, to not just be good players, but centerpiece players, foundational players that the team is built around. I'm curious the degree to which Argentina will be built around Messi come the summer's World Cup, but I think we pretty clearly know Ronaldo's going to be the starting center forward, and the idea for Portugal is going to be to get him the ball in high leverage moments to go and score goals that can go potentially win them the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, this is a conversation for everybody, by the way. If you're watching on YouTube, chime into the conversation in the comments. If you're a Messi fan, if you're a Ronaldo fan, I don't care if you're a football fan, football nerd, let us know what you think is going to happen at the World Cup between these two players. And the numbers kind of show that Portugal has catered a little bit more to Ronaldo than Argentina has to Messi. Let's take a look at Lionel Messi in these last couple of years because it's pretty telling. Going into the World Cup, there's been a little bit of ambiguity also. I hope I can be there, he said. I've said before that I'd love to be there. At worst, I'll be there watching it live, but it will be special. This gray area that Messi has kind of spoken about, to me, it's all a bit that's going to be played later out. I really think Messi's going to be at the World Cup. And if he is, I think he can only help Argentina.
Yeah, which I think is sort of interesting, the humility with which he talks about it, but we all know he's going to be there. The one thing, though, that could potentially defy at least recent trends is, again, 38-plus-year-old players involved in the last two World Cups. This is the complete list. And if you look at this list, it's really only Ignashevich for Russia at the World Cup in 2018, Thiago Silva and Pepe that were players for teams that achieved a high level of the World Cup that were basically nailed on starters. Dani Alves is kind of a bit part player for Brazil. Rafa Marquez as well for Mexico. Tim Cahill only played the one game for Australia in 2018. Atiba Hutchinson was a starter, but obviously Canada didn't make it out of the group stage. So in terms of teams with big expectations, this is a surprise that we see Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo at the center of their teams at this stage.
Yeah, definitely. And most of these players that you're seeing on this list aren't attacking players. Tim Cahill, the sole exception. So it's going to be interesting to see how all of this plays out. Let's take a look at what Messi has done in between the last couple of World Cups. So we're taking a look at the World Cup cycle from 2018 to 2022. And since the Qatar World Cup, he's played less games, less official games, right? We're excluding friendlies for this chat. And the areas of influence are pretty similar. 2 Copa Americas in those World Cup cycles, 2 trophies for Argentina. And it's fair to say that although he's playing less, he's still contributing a lot. But it does seem like Argentina has had big moments without him, especially I think back to World Cup qualifying games against Uruguay and Brazil, where Argentina were able to play some of their biggest rivals off of the park without Messi. He missed 7 official games, and they've scored more in those 7 official games than having him on the pitch in the 17 that he played. But they are getting more points per game, and I think that's normal. But it does feel like Argentina has a greater vision beyond Messi, if it's for this World Cup, if it's for the next World Cup, or immediately afterwards. Whereas for Portugal, I'm not so sure the numbers say the same thing, Woody.
Which is interesting because I do think that Portugal have some players that are not quite heir apparents. There is no heir apparent to Messi or Ronaldo because of their level.
Right.
But I still think that Portugal has that level of, you think of a player like Rafael Leao, who takes on the responsibility of a team in Milan, and I think could do something similar for Portugal. But let's look at the figures now for Cristiano Ronaldo in terms of the sort of with and without figures. And again, we're looking at a similar figure. This is excluding friendlies over the course of that cycle. He's actually playing more, Cristiano Ronaldo, than he was in the previous cycles. Dealing with injury a little bit less and still taking up 80% of the minutes, still involved in roughly the same amount of the goals. So he's still a key player in this team for Portugal. There is no decision about taking him out of the side, whether that's because Ronaldo decides so or because that's what the coach thinks is the best thing to do. I think the one thing you see in terms of major difference, you look at this number 10 area and you look at the positions out wide as well. There's one thing that he does now. Get in the box.
Yeah.
Get in the box and be that center forward for the side. The side is constructed around trying to get him good chances, good moments. This is the evolution of his career, really, in just the shape of one heat map.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is extremely telling because you're saying that he's playing more, but his heat map is less dense.
Right, which I think shows he's conserving himself in games, which Messi also does in games as well, but also his role has changed over time. I sort of came to Cristiano Ronaldo as a really profitable goal-scoring winger who would come off the left and get involved in tons of goals. He is now an out-and-out center forward, and that really changed, really after he moved to Juventus, I would say, really, most of all. But I think when you look at what he has done over the course of the last few years, I think, again, we take a look at some of these figures. Just even comparing, you showed the figures of Messi. 28 games to 3 in official competition with and without Ronaldo, just the 3 games. Obviously, this is kind of a funny statistic here because they score 4 goals per game more. But that's because this is weighted by a 9-1 win for Portugal over Armenia, where they took off. This is after Ronaldo got suspended against Ireland. So we're saying they score 6.3 goals per game, which if that actually were the case, I would recommend them trying it, but probably a bit weighted by the numbers.
Wait, are you saying that the numbers do lie?
No, never. No. Numbers don't lie.
Yeah, well, it's pretty incredible. I mean, listen, Ronaldo has been playing a lot for Portugal, and it's incredible that at his age, he still has this type of influence on the Portuguese national team, and they're willing to die on this hill for him. Hey, it might work, it might not. And Argentina, we'll see how Messi is involved. That's also a big question. So who will have the bigger impact? This is the question that we're going to be analyzing not only this week, we'll be reading out the best comments here on YouTube throughout all of our shows here on CBS Sports Golazo. So Messi, Ronaldo, we're in 2025 on the doorstep of 2026, and the debate still goes on. It's Numbers Don't Lie here on CBS Sports Golazo, powered by Sofascore. Chris Whittingham, Nico Cantor here talking Real Madrid against Manchester City, the big matchup in Champions League. And several reports in Spain are hinting that this might be Xabi Alonso's last chance to save his job against Manchester City in the Champions League. What?
It's December. We thought Xabi Alonso was going to be a transformational manager for Real Madrid. Instead, he's 4 months into his managerial reign, and there's already talk about him being out if they don't win this game, which is shocking to me, and I think is an indication of how maybe a manager with his kinds of methods isn't going to work in the longer term at Real.
All right, let's anticipate to see what will go on between these two teams and see who's got the edge. Chime in throughout this video, throughout this segment. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on CBS Sports Golazo, give us your thoughts. We'll read you out throughout all of our platforms here on CBS Sports Golazo. All right, Rudiger hasn't played much in the Champions League. You see that his Sofascore is nothing. Meanwhile, you got players like Asensio, Valverde playing right back. I think Xabi Alonso is going to have to deal with his back line in a very particular way because it is very, very thin at the moment. You got Tchouaméni, Camavinga, Arda Güler. Vini isn't in great run of form. The only person that really is Kylian Mbappé and probably Thibaut Courtois, I would say. I think those have been the 2 pillars for Real Madrid this season.
No doubt. I actually think that midfield has performed reasonably well. Obviously, the numbers back that up. But I think you see a team in the Champions League that is showing a level of underperformance in Real Madrid, which is compared to Manchester City. We got green numbers all the way down here. I think this front 4 from Man City has really established itself with Doku, Foden, and Cherki in behind Erling Haaland. I think Josko Gvardiol is having a very good season as well. And Gianluigi Donnarumma has come up with the goods and a lot of key moments for Manchester City. So I think you're starting to see a City side under Guardiola that is coming together.
All right, so when these two teams go toe for toe, we're asking who has the edge, and we're going to break this down with a whole plethora of stats. It's actually called Z-score, so don't worry. It's much simpler than it sounds. For every team across Europe, we look at 4 categories to rank them from 0 to 100. You see there on the scale, it goes from Lecce to Manchester City, and those 4 categories are attacking, defending, possession, and intensity. Each category, though, has a bunch of stats that influence it. So, for example, in attacking, we look at goals per game, expected goals, big chances created, amongst others. Then we measure how far above or below the average each team performs in that category. That difference is the Z-score. The better you are compared to the rest of the pack, the higher your score. We combine all of those numbers into one final rating from 0 to 100. So when you see a team rise or fall in our rankings, it's not opinion, it's math. So let's look at the attacking numbers for both of these teams. And as you see on the spectrum, they fall all the way to the right. We're splitting hairs here between Manchester City and Real Madrid falling into the elite category. I mean, goals per game, they're scoring well above 2. Expected goals per game, Manchester City is actually outperforming by a little bit. Real Madrid underperforming. Big chances per game, more for Real Madrid than for Manchester City, and that's why it's Real Madrid that's just outperforming by 6 points on our Z-score rating, Manchester City on the attacking score.
Is this an indication in your view that maybe the conversation on Real being negative is a bit overdone, that they are still creating a lot, that they are still creating big chances per game, and maybe this sort of underperformance that you mentioned will get solved over time?
I think this is a very Kylian Mbappe heavy statistical category, and he's that good that he can sway these numbers in his favor. I think there's a lot of footballing problems happening at Real Madrid, and it just feels like there's this dependence, and if he doesn't score, they won't get it to go. Whereas I think Erling Haaland and Manchester City have a different story to tell.
Yeah, I think obviously these are the two informed strikers along with Harry Kane right now in Europe. I think when you look at maybe where Real is struggling at the moment, I think Man City will have to improve. This could also be a Ballon d'Or level conversation with the way that these two players have been performing this season. 25 goals to 20. Mbappe is again performing in a team where the results maybe aren't quite there. I still think though he is delivering a really high level. Goals plus assists, second in Europe's top 5 leagues. Goal involvements in terms of percentage is number 1, and he is rated right now by Sofascore as the best performing player in Europe, game in and game out, which makes sense based off of the eye test as well. But I think it's more, and you mentioned that dependence, this is absolutely the figure that shows that. 57% of the goals the Real Madrid have scored have involved Mbappe in some way.
I mean, imagine if he had a little bit more of a helping hand with Vini, with Rodrigo, who's on this record dry spell, right? With Jude Bellingham, even finding that partner. Arda Güler at moments looked like he was going to be that really great midfielder that could partner and provide for Kylian Mbappe, but it's dimmed down a little bit, that light, that bright moment that they connected earlier in the season. So it just feels like it's become a very Kylian Mbappe heavy team and not a strong collective performance week in, week out from this group.
Which might not necessarily be his fault, but I think it is perhaps the biggest thing for them to figure out going forward. Now, you look at Erling Haaland for Manchester City, I think his figures have been fantastic as well. And there was at one point this season that sort of similar level of dependence. If he didn't score, Man City didn't score. I think that has actually improved in recent times, but still, the numbers are staggering. Obviously, this is before the international break in November. 19 goals, 68 minutes per goals, there or thereabouts, but a significant overperformance of the expected goals. That has changed since the international window now. We've only seen the 1 goal since, and I think you look at this underperformance in terms of expected goals. He's still getting very good chances. He just isn't converting them right now, and his Sofascore rating has gone down. Is that a worry for you at all going into this game that Haaland hasn't delivered his best form?
No, I think it's a worry for Real Madrid because Haaland is going to be very hungry to come out, especially when Real Madrid is weak, hit them where it hurts. But we'll see what type of Erling Braut Haaland we get. Now that you say about that XG underperformance and the fact that he gets great chances, I would love one day to do a breakdown, and we definitely can in future episodes, and ask whether Erling Haaland is an elite finisher, because sometimes he has chances that are so easy that you think, okay, this is going to be a goal, and he misses, and then he'll create a chance out of absolutely nowhere that no footballer on earth has any business scoring. It's very strange. He's this anomaly of a human being, of an athlete, and he's absolutely incredible. But it is interesting to see the plethora of opportunities that this guy has there. He scores sometimes the most difficult, and he misses sometimes the easiest. But the sheer amount of goals that he scores is astonishing.
Astonishing. Now, I think we look now going into this game for Manchester City against Real Madrid. And one of the things that will be fascinating, Xabi Alonso also wanted to implement a style of possession-based football. We know that Manchester City under Pep Guardiola are doing a very similar thing. So let's read how these teams are in their use of the ball. And so we look so far in this season, Manchester City, in terms of average possession, is just slightly better. But still, again, we're talking about 59.6 for Real Madrid. That is a slight difference in their style of play compared to how they were under Carlo Ancelotti in terms of field tilt. These are very similar numbers all the way down. The one difference that does give a slight advantage to Real Madrid is the percentage of passes that go forward. But again, if we're talking about our Z-score spectrum from bad teams in Europe all the way to the best teams, these are the very elite in terms of possession and their ability on the ball. So I think we see a Man City side coming into this game. We'll be curious if they can go away from home and compete in terms of their ability to retain the ball.
Okay, let's talk about about defense, and it's actually crazy to me that Real Madrid is so high up on this scale because there have been questions defensively, especially how thin they are. They've conceded almost a goal a game, just like Manchester City, but they're actually overperforming that, right? I think it's because they also have a really good goalkeeper. Manchester City has more errors per game that lead to a goal. Real Madrid just about under one. And they're at 83 and 84, but that still kind of puts them in that top echelon of teams. I'm just thinking, it's like, wow, there must be very poor defensive teams after that, because I wouldn't rate necessarily Real Madrid as a top defensive team.
Yeah, they had a lot of games, I think, against weaker opposition earlier in the year where they just didn't allow much. But I think when teams can attack them and get at them, I think this is sort of one of the things. Even you go back to that game against Liverpool, they lost in the Champions League, where they were opened up in space. And I think this is sort of one of the things that is concerning. Poor in terms of counterattacking, we'll call them. Fast break goals conceded here. The through balls allowed, the errors that lead to a goal, and even penalties committed as well. I think there are times where it's difficult at times for some teams to put them under pressure. But when you do, you can get at them. And I think some of that has changed as the personnel has evolved over the course of the season.
It's funny because we're getting this Real Madrid-Manchester City matchup again in the Champions League. And for the last couple of seasons, it's been the highest of the high performance of Titans. And over the last year, both of these teams have dropped off, and it's kind of who's worse at the moment. That's like the measuring stick right now. Like, is City good enough to beat Manchester City, or is Manchester City good enough to beat this questionable Real Madrid, and vice versa? And a big factor in that is intensity. And this very modern component of football is important. So opponents' actions allowed per possession won. They're very similar. Duels contested per game. Real Madrid is getting stuck in it more. But of those duels won, it's almost 50-50 for both teams, which is obviously a good measuring stick because these two teams are some of the most intense teams in Europe.
This is one of the rubrics I think Xabi Alonso is most judging his team against. He actually said after they lost to the weekend to Celta Vigo that he felt that they were more intense and applied themselves more down to 10 men than they did as 11v11 players. So Xabi Alonso is constantly asking for more defensive effort from his team. Honestly, maybe even too much in the perspective of some of the players. So we know that this is a key part of the game for Real Madrid.
I mean, so let's see. Let's all the four categories. Where does this stack up? They're all in the dark blue. Real Madrid and Manchester City, we're splitting hairs here at the moment. We really are. So it kind of, through the stats, I question whether Real Madrid's crisis at the moment or bad run of form, really bad run of form, a lot of media outlets, if it is that bad, from all of the top 5 teams, they're ranked 5th on our Z-score scale.
Right. And look, let's be very clear that at Real Madrid, they expect to be number 1.
Correct.
All the time. Yeah. And so I understand there's that level of expectation, but I think at the moment they're going through some growing pains under a new manager, both in terms of the personnel with the players, I think, in the dressing room, not responding always to the way that Xabi Alonso is coaching them right now, but also they're employing a new tactical style. I think they have to make evolutions on what they've been in previous editions in order to fit this modern era. But I think the interesting one here is City, where they are currently sat in 8th. When they came to the Champions League knockouts last year and they got knocked out by Real Madrid, it was a real sign that they were off the pace, significantly off the pace from the top teams in Europe, having just won the Premier League, having again just won the Champions League a few seasons earlier. I think now, with the way that they are playing, this is a great game for them to play to see where they are now. Have they made a big step forward from March to December to show they can maybe go on to compete to win this Champions League, when I don't think last year they were anywhere near it?
All right, so this is the form guide for both of these teams. The pre-match odds to win the entire thing for both are very similar. And they have been very similar per all of our stats that we've shown. 11% for Real Madrid to win the Champions League before this match, 10% for Manchester City. It's incredible to see where these teams are compared to where they've been. But it's still very early in the European football season, and so much more can be written. But what we will know, we'll get an answer to see who's got the edge between Real Madrid and Manchester City very, very soon. It's the best part of our week here on Numbers Don't Lie. Our WTF stats of the week. where we show you some of the crazy stuff that's going on in the world of football. Plus, we get to play a little bit of trivia. Mo Salah, who hinted it might be his last game for Liverpool, who got dropped for his Champions League game this coming midweek because of his incendiary comments. If it is to be his last game, he would leave in pretty good standing.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say first, it's wild that we're talking about Mo Salah having potentially played his last game for Liverpool, but I guess we're doing career retrospectives with Mo Salah. But yeah, I mean, obviously goals and assists since his arrival. Obviously, his former running mates in Firmino and Mane are second and third. Some incredible, 363 is just an absolutely insane figure. And then you look at goals and assists in the Premier League since his arrival, over 100 above everyone else. The next closest, Son Heung-min, obviously now of LAFC. But it is just wild that we're talking about potentially him moving on from Liverpool after everything that he's done, after as good of a season he had last year. At this time last year, we're talking about his contract extension. They've got to pay him. And instead, here we are now talking about him potentially leaving.
Something else that's also kind of wild is Aston Villa's turnaround, where they started the season in a record poor fashion. And this man, Unai Emery, has turned things around. I mean, the first 4 rounds of the Premier League saw them score a grand total of 0 goals, and since they have scored 22. Their points per game was god-awful at 0.5, whereas now they're creeping up the table, and if you only take those last 11 rounds, they are first in the Premier League as opposed to 19th. I mean, they won 0 games in the first 4 games. And this is the turnaround. They dipped close to the bottom, and now they are sitting near the top of the Premier League standings. Pretty incredible.
Which is insane, because again, you mentioned the way that they started. They failed to make the Champions League last year on the final day against Manchester United, didn't do anything in the transfer market as a result. I think there was a real worry that this was kind of the end of the Unai Emery era, and instead he has sort of coached his way out of this problem. Obviously, they were never that bad. That squad is way too good to be 19th in the Premier League,
absolutely.
But to go from there to 3rd in 2 months, insane.
I mean, who would have said that Villa are going to be in the title fight after, not even 4, after first 5 games of the season?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would have.
People are talking, oh, they might have to worry about a relegation battle. Let's get out to a team that never has to worry about a relegation battle, and that is in the WSL. Chelsea women had gone 34 games unbeaten in the WSL under Sonia Bonpastor before finally losing this week at home against Everton. Not even one of the better teams in the WSL, but fair play to Everton and their women's side for getting this victory. First defeat in 34 games. It came in a game in which Chelsea had 30 shots on goal, 18 corners, and 61 touches in the Everton box. But if you cannot score the goals, you're going to lose the game. And so it's the first defeat domestically for Chelsea in more than a year.
Yeah. This is the stat that counts the most.
Yes,
right?
it is.
This is the number that
That's the number that never lies.
Doesn't lie. All right, more fun. Trivia. Guess the player, right?
Yes.
We have not seen this until this very moment. Guess the player. Clue number 1. His stats from a top 5 European League game this weekend. He got a hat trick. Oh, I know who it is. He got a 10 Sofascore rating. I know a player who got a hat trick this weekend.
For some reason, it's passing me by. Who had the hat trick? Was it? No, Yeremy Pino didn't have one, right?
No, but Spanish, my guess would be Ferran Torres, who scored a hat trick against Betis.
Oh, we're being told no. We're being told no. It's not Ferran Torres. All right. Interesting. Stats.
Do we get another clue? Oh, we do get another clue.
Okay.
Became the second youngest player ever to score a hat trick in that league. I mean, Harry Kane also scored a hat trick, but he's clearly not the second youngest ever player to score a hat trick in a top 5 league. Clue number 3. Oh, is production going to stump us? Joined his bullish team this summer, arriving from La Liga.
Bullish. Oh, is this an RB Salzburg and RB Leipzig?
Oh, when they beat Frankfurt 3-0, so it's, 6-0.
Yeah.
Did somebody score?
I do remember there was a hat trick in the game, but I don't remember the name of the player. His African national team will open their World Cup against Ecuador.
Is there some Ivory Coast? Who do they have? They have Ivory Coast.
I think so. Ivorian for RB Leipzig.
Is it for RB Leipzig?
Yes. The name is passing me by.
I saw they won 6-0. I don't know who it was.
All right, here we go. Let's reveal the player then. There he is, Jan Diamande.
Oh, Jan Diamande.
For RB Leipzig.
He's like 19 or something like that.
Of course, the Red Bull Club. That makes sense.
Yeah. All right, guess the team. Production says it's a little bit easier. Thanks for throwing me down the Omande. I mean, does he even play for the Ivorian national team? His national team, but has he played for the national team? Good question to look up afterwards. Yeah, maybe we're the ignorant ones here hosting the number show. All right, big chances in the top 5 leagues. Barcelona, number 1. Bayern, number 2. This team, number 3 with 59. Inter and Real Madrid. It's clearly not a big team.
Yeah, it would have to catch us by surprise. Clue number 1, despite scoring only 26 goals, this team is currently leading their league.
Wait. Leading their league, so clearly not. Yeah. Wait, they have 26 goals, but 59 big chances created?
I don't know if that's impressive or not impressive.
They are leading their league like in the table?
Yeah, it must
be. That league was won by the same team 8 times in the previous 10 seasons.
Who is leading Ligue 1 right now? Marseille?
Lens.
Lens. So this could be Lens then?
Lens is 26.
Yeah, there they are.
26 goals?
From 59 big chances created. So, I think this is more just the company that they're keeping here. Barcelona, Bayern, Inter, and Real Madrid. So...
Wait, Lens is top of Ligue 1. They should be doing even better. They've created 59 chances. Lens, you've only scored 26 goals. All right, to close us out, we're going to talk about the World Cup since it's trending and it's around the corner here in the United States. Let's take a look at what's coming up next. 20 defending World Cup champions in this World Cup. Perhaps we might have one more if Italy qualifies. 6 have gone out in the group stage and 5 have reached the final. So, I see what we're saying. From the 20 defending World Cup champions, 6 went out in the group stage, 5 reached the final. Interesting. So it's kind of like...
Yeah, and that was more the recent trend until last year. Because, look, 3 in a row. Italy in 2010, out in the group stage. Spain in 2014, out in the group stage. Same for Germany. And so it really is France in 2022 that bucked this trend by getting to another final. And I think it will be curious to see for Argentina. Their group looks fairly favorable. I think out in the group might be difficult for them to pull off, but you wonder as well if maybe they fail to deliver upon expectations and they aren't contending, because that was the trend up until the last edition. 8
of the 12 third places go through. So if Argentina were to lose in that group against Algeria, Austria, and Jordan, it would be the failure of all failures. Funny enough, they did reach the final in 1990, but in their very first game at the World Cup, since they were defending that crown from 1986, they lost to Cameroon. They lost in the first game at the World Cup. So it never comes easy defending your World Cup title. In fact, Brazil from 1958 to 1962 was the only team
that repeated
do so, right?
Yeah.
All right, World Cup around the corner. This is Numbers Don't Lie. Hey, thanks for watching this video from Numbers Don't Lie. Be sure to catch our show every Monday at 5 p.m. on YouTube. And for news and insights from leagues all around the world, including Serie A, EFL, and all UEFA competitions, both men's and women's, don't forget to sign up for Paramount+.